So for anyone who's come late or missed me, a block or a book would be great, about this size, and either a strap or a scarf or a belt would be also helpful. All right, we're going to start in 2 minutes, but I'll just maybe go over a little bit of just about mindfulness and what mindful yoga is. Most of you have heard this already, but if you haven't, what you've shown up for is a mindful yoga class. And what does that mean? It's maybe going to be a little slower than some classes. It's going to focus on being rather than doing. It's going to be a little more meditative and really trying to foster a connection between the mind, body, and breath. It's going to embed the attitudes of mindfulness throughout the class. So encouraging you, for example, not to judge your body, not to judge your experience of the class today, especially aches and pains that can irritate us, and just be curious about those things. Using terminology like non-striving, so not going to your full 100%, because that's often where injuries happen. So just encouraging you to go to maybe 80% of your full range or ability. Accepting your body as it shows up today, and whatever percolates up, it's great information for us to reflect. Trusting the wisdom of our body. So if something doesn't feel right, we don't do it. We do our own yoga pose, or we do a variation that's appropriate, or we skip that yoga pose. So your authority, your wisdom of your body trumps any direction I might be giving. So just really trusting your body to communicate what's right for you today. We're doing some harder poses today for some people. We're working on the core once again, and so just being really patient and giving our body some time to build that strength. We're going to be asking a lot of the shoulders today, particularly, and so if you do have shoulder limitations, I really invite you to practice self-compassion and really take care of that area, and to take breaks whenever you need to break, and to do a variation that's appropriate for your body today. Beginner's mind is another attitude. So you have a new body every time you show up for a yoga class. Every time that body's a little bit different. And so really dropping into physical sensations with a curious beginner's mind and making adjustments to accommodate the body that has shown up today. Gratitude, so just grateful for the sunny day, maybe grateful that our body is even allowing us to show up for this yoga practice and is complying with us. And as John Kabat-Zinn says, if you're breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you. So yeah, just being grateful to be embodied. All right, so let's start. So this week we're going to start lying down instead of sitting up. So everyone can lie down. That will feel so blissful, I'm sure. People usually prefer to start lying down. And just have your strap ready right beside you, because we're going to start with it very quickly. So I'm not going to lie down right away, but you're going to lie down. And we're going to do our time in lying down. Hi, Nadine. All right, so in Shavasana pose, Immortality pose, so our legs are traditionally hip-width apart, arms are traditionally 1 foot from your side, palms facing up. However, if you like to place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, that might feel nice for you. And shoulder blades tucked in a little closer together so that you have good posture here. And reaching through the crown of our head, not the top of our head, a little back, further back. The crown of the head reaches towards the top of your mat, and you create a little bit of traction in the back of your neck, which should feel nice. And we're just going to do a check-in right now. How are you feeling emotionally right now? What mood is percolating up? And not judging anything, but just being curious about your mood right now, no matter what it is. And then checking in with your mind. Are you a little stuck in the future planning mode, or are you maybe a little stuck in something that's happened in the past, earlier this morning or yesterday? Is your mind feeling very alert right now? Is your mind feeling sluggish? Or is your mind feeling very relaxed in the present moment? And then checking in with physical sensations that might be percolating up in your body right now. Any tingling or throbbing or pulsing? Anything feel hot or cold? This is all valuable information. And if there is something in your body that's demanding attention right now, just making that commitment to be extra gentle with that area throughout the practice so that you don't irritate it more. And just offering those areas of our body that are sometimes tense or tight or feeling a little painful, just offering it some kindness and curiosity and some nurturing breath. Not seeing these things as our enemy, but as sources of information. And then finally dropping into the breath. How's your breath doing? What is the natural rhythm of your breath? And because you're lying on the floor, can you feel your lungs gently pushing into your yoga mat as you inhale? Because our lungs aren't just in the front of the body, they're also in our back body. And we're going to move from breath awareness into breath control. We're going to drop into the 3-part breath, which I've been talking a lot about. So you can place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart at this point. And we're just going to retrain our bodies to take those nice, slow, full breaths, breathing into the belly, side ribs, heart, nice, slow exhale, belly, side ribs, heart, nice, slow exhale. A few rounds on your own. And just notice, has your mind wandered? It has the tendency to do that, and not judging that or being frustrated, but just kind of relaxing back into the breath. And we're going to add some movement now. We're going to, instead of starting with the head and moving down to the feet, as I have the last few weeks, We're going to reverse the order today. We're going to start with the feet and then work up our body. I'm going to focus a lot on waking up the core since our peak pose is dolphin, plank, and dolphin. They require a lot of core stability and also a lot of strength in our shoulders. So that's going to be the physical focus today. But we're going to give an overall body tune-up and just wake everything up anyways. And we're going to start with the ankles, important joints in our body. And just pointing the feet and then flexing the feet, pointing, flexing. And just noticing how that feels for your ankles, and perhaps you're feeling something in your calves or maybe even your hamstrings. And then windshield wiping those feet side to side and noticing how that feels for your body. And then circles one way. So we're juicing up those ankle joints. Circles the other way. And then just kind of bending each knee very rapidly and just kind of slapping those calves against the mat. Just waking up those legs. And getting ready to do a hamstring stretch. All right. And then bending a knee, grabbing your strap or your winter scarf, which hopefully you won't need anymore, except for yoga. And putting your ball joint, your strap around the ball joint, not the instep, but the ball joint. And the reason the ball joint is, if we gently pull on that, we're going to create a less than 90-degree angle of flexion, maybe, for our ankles. And so there's options here. I like this strap because your posture is perfect because you're lying down on the ground and you're not rounding your back. Depending on your hamstrings, and this is where you practice non-judgment. We have a lot of judgment about our flexibility. So wherever you are is where you are, and just be thankful that your body's allowing you to do any yoga at all. So you might be here, you might be here, you might be here. If you're been doing yoga for 25 years, you might be less than a 90-degree angle. So I invite you to be really, let your body guide this practice, not your mind. So sometimes closing the eyes can be helpful. And you just raise that leg until you feel a healthy amount of sensation. If for some reason you have a yoga strap, you can interlock your fingers behind your thighs for support. And then we're going to do an experiment. We're going to bend the knee and bring it a little closer towards our body and notice where we feel that. And then compare it to a straight leg being pulled up or closer towards our torso. It's very subtle. There is a subtle difference with the bent knee. You're getting a stretch both ways, by the way. It's just a little different. Very tiny difference. And you might not notice any difference. All right, so you just said good morning to your hamstring. So with the raised leg, that same hand wraps around the yoga strap. The opposite arm drops onto the floor, and then very gently dropping that leg out to the side. Oh, and you might feel that on the inside of the thigh. You might still be feeling it in your hamstring. You might be feeling it somewhere else completely. So the elbow lands, and the elbow is your support. The opposite shoulder and opposite hip stay on the floor. Sometimes they want to peel up off the floor, but we're going to ground down through that extended leg, ground down through the hip, ground down through the shoulders. And so wherever you feel the most sensation, that's where energetically we send our breath. So breathing into the tight areas will encourage them to loosen up. And the next inhale, floating that leg back up, nice and slow. Switching hands, switching grips. We're going to go over and across into a spinal twist. So the opposite arm grounds into the floor, the opposite shoulder is anchored to the floor, and then we guide that extended leg over and across, landing on our elbow and looking in the opposite direction. So this is a spinal twist, and we're stretching a very long tendon that runs along the outside of our leg called the IT band. Stretching out the muscles in our backs here, in our hamstrings. And once again, just breathing into areas of sensation, 3-part breath being ideal. And on the next inhale, slowly coming up, and then bringing the other foot up through the strap and switching legs. So now the same hand as the foot that is raised grabs the strap, maybe double binds around the strap. And once again, see, is this foot more flexible, less flexible, more sensation than the other side? And so not judging it, but having a beginner's mind. And so just because you made it to 90 degrees on the other side doesn't mean this side wants to do the same. And so maybe even closing the eyes and slowly raising that leg and letting your body guide you, and it'll, if you listen, it'll tell you when to stop and not letting the ego override that. And then once again, bending the knee, pulling the foot a little closer perhaps, straightening the leg, playing with that. You can do little pulses if you like. So just being really curious about this leg. What's going on for it this morning? And then dropping that leg over, opening it up to the side, and noticing how that changes the quality of the stretch. And breathing into the sensation. Inhaling that leg back up, switching the grip. So now the opposite hand to that leg is holding the strap. And we're going to slowly float that leg to the other side. That leg is not going to go all the way to the floor because your both shoulders are grounding into the floor, right? You can land on that elbow to give the elbow a rest. And once again, do you need to bend that knee a little bit? Does it feel good to extend it? What feels better for you? What gives you a nice amount of sensation? So finding your personal edge, where you feel like you're challenging that hamstring but not stressing it. A healthy challenge. And then inhaling that leg back up and taking the strap off, and then hugging that knee to your chest. So we're going to wake up the internal organs here. And we're also going to challenge our hip flexors. Now, if that hurts your knee, you can interlock your fingers around the back of your thigh instead. We're kind of going to the outside of the rib cage, pulling our thigh into our chest, and that knee is aiming towards the armpit. Now, if you want to wake up the abdominals a little bit, the other option is the leg that's extended, raise it 1 inch off the ground, and just notice how your abdominals kicked in to make that happen, your hip flexors. And then if you want a little more sensation, you can look up at that extended leg and notice how the abdominals are working a little harder again. Maybe noticing if you're starting to hold the breath. Can you slip into the 3-part breathing here? Is it a little more challenging to do the 3-part breathing when your abdominals are engaged like this? And release and shake out that leg. And then we'll do the other side. Once again, grabbing the outside of the knee or grabbing the outside of the thigh, pulling your knee towards your chest, a little more towards your armpit. And does this side feel different, or does it feel the same? Option 2, raising that flexed, extended leg 1 inch off the ground. Do you need more sensation? Do you need more challenge? You can bring the head up. As long as you can still continue that 3-part breath. And then slowly release, stretch out that leg, let all that blood shoot into your colon, massage your digestive tract. And then we're going to try both knees. So we can hug the backs of our thighs, or we can hug our knees, or we can reach for the opposite elbows, or just grab the opposite wrists, and just trying to hug those thighs into the chest, whatever our ability is, and being mindful of the knees. Some knees don't like a lot of flexion. And we can throw in a little bit of a back massage here by rocking side to side. And just noticing where you feel this. Where are the physical sensations in your body right now? And then extending. And from here, we're going to try to go into laughing baby. So variation 1 is the knees come apart and then the knees bend and we hold on to our calves or our ankles. Some people might be able to comfortably wrap their fingers around the outsides of their feet. And here's a good place to practice non-striving. So if wrapping your fingers around your feet is uncomfortable, not enjoyable, it's fine to grab the knees or the calves. And then once you find your version of laughing baby, I'll do variation 2 and grab onto my calves. We can try rocking side to side. And so if you want more variations, you can go into cobbler here, where the feet come together and you interlock your fingers around your feet and pull your heels towards your torso. And once again, this is one of many options. Choose the one that is truly best for your body this morning, because you want to be able to show up here again next week pain-free. All right, and then dropping the feet to the floor. The feet come hip, more than hip width apart. They become mat width apart, or maybe even off the mat a little bit. We're going to work on internal rotation of the hip. So one knee is going to come towards the midline, but the other knee is going to stay facing the ceiling. So that's internal rotation of the hip. And just noticing that, and we're going to compare this side to the other side. So on the inhale, bring that knee up. On the exhale, drop the other knee down. And I'm also feeling a stretch in my quadricep, my thigh muscle. So if I push that knee away from my torso, I feel a little more in the quad. And then let's try that one more time on each side, exhaling into it. Maybe pushing that knee away from our torso to activate the quad. Inhaling it back up, and then internally rotating the other hip. Breathing into the areas of sensation. And then coming back up. Next, we're going to do a spinal twist, windshield wipers. So this time, both knees slowly float to one side. And then inhale up. And exhale, slowly float the knees to the other side. And so you're just going to do a few rounds. Inhaling up. Exhaling down, going at your own rate. And just noticing again physical sensations that are percolating up. And you can groan or sigh or yawn here. These are all great ways where how the body releases tension is through also sound. All right, and then picking up one knee and just doing some hip circles, juicing up that hip joint a little more. And juicing it up the other way. And then putting that foot back down and just letting that knee drop to the side like a chicken wing. So this is external rotation of the hip and just noticing how that feels. And you can inhale it up, exhale it down a few times, and just notice how that feels. And now we're going to work on the other hip, so making circles one way. Just dropping into physical sensation here. How does it feel? Reversing the rotation. And then working on external rotation, dropping that foot to the ground, exhaling that knee out to the side, the other knee is stable. So just inhaling it up, exhaling it down a few times, juicing up the hip joint. Good. And then if you have a book or a block, we're going to do Clam Twist. So you're going to squeeze that book between your knees. If you don't have a book or a block, no problem. Just squeeze your knees together. Oh, this is a heavy book. Wow. I'm working hard on this one. The yoga block is way lighter. All right. You're in the ocean. You've got a pearl between your knees. And a wave has come, and that wave, it's a slow wave, and we're just going to slowly drop to one side. The feet are not going to come to the floor, and then we're going to inhale back up, and now another wave has come, and it's blown you in the other direction. We're not going to come all the way down. Inhale up. So you're just going to do this a few more times, going at your own rate. So we're waking up the internal obliques, the abdominal muscles at the side of our body here. We're also working our adductor muscles. There's muscles that run on the inside of our thighs, and we wake those up by squeezing our legs together. So we're just prepping all this for our dolphin plank pose and for our dolphin pose. Great. And then slowly coming up. All right, so we've woken up the feet, woken up the thighs, the adductors, the abductors. We've woken up our hip flexors. We've done some spinal twist. And to wake up the upper body, I'm going to ask you to get up to seated. There's two ways you can do this. You can roll onto your side and push your way up, or you can do a few spinal rocks, where you grab the backs of your legs and you rock a few times. That kind of wakes up your nervous system a little. And if it's painful or uncomfortable, don't do it. All right, and then rocking right up. Good morning. So just noticing how this movement has made you feel. And we're going to be here on cross-legged for a few minutes. And so you might want to sit on your book or your yoga block. It's a little more comfortable. And just knowing you can stretch out those legs anytime you want if it's uncomfortable to keep those knees bent. All right, so side body, let's just wake that up a little bit more. We're gonna do some seaweed arms. So you're gonna wave, since we're doing an ocean theme, and inhale, come up, seaweed arms the other way. And just notice how that side body is responding to the stretch. Oh, it looks nice to see everyone waving. And maybe you can go down for a deeper wave now that you're warmed up, but you don't have to, so you can come up to your elbow or not. Good. And slowly coming up. All right, so we're going to wake up the chest, and we're going to wake up those shoulder muscles, the rotator cuff muscles that allow us to shrug our shoulders, rotate our shoulders, move our arms up and down. They're small and they can get injured easily because they do a lot, but they're small. So a lot of people when they get older develop shoulder issues. So it's good to kind of spend some time strengthening those muscles and then of course stretching them. So bringing the arms out, I'll do this 45-degree angle. So bringing the arms together, the elbows together, the hands, pressing them into each other. And so what fires up in your body when you press those arms together, just noticing that. And then inhaling, stretching out the pectoral muscles, strengthening the muscles in your back for good posture. And then coming back and squeezing. Inhaling, open. Exhaling, close. One more round. And then squeezing, just pulsing up and down a little bit and noticing how that feels. And it's, you don't have to go far, I find. If you're squeezing, just little pulses are usually enough. Ooh. And I've noticed my rotator cuff muscles are already feeling a little fatigued. All right, bringing the arms out to the side. We're going to go into a W. So this is cactus arms, and then we're going to go into W arms, and just notice if that's even accessible. So you can stay in cactus arms, and then try to tip the elbows forward a little more, just like a centimeter, and then notice how that feels. Woo. All right, and then inhale, snow angel arms, making a circle or touching your fingers maybe, or maybe only coming this far, and then exhaling back into the W. So imagine you're against a wall, and you're completely in line with that wall. And so just honor the range of motion that shows up for you today. So no one has to touch their fingers. No one has to go into the W. Inhaling up, exhaling down. And then bringing the arms out to the side, rotating the shoulders one way, and then rotating them the other way. And then imagine your hand is on a door jamb, and we're just opening and closing that door jamb. And so always with the shoulders, we're always kind of pulling the arm bones into the shoulder joint, and that is stability. So try doing that with your shoulders pulled right out of your, with your arms pulled right out of your shoulder joints. And then compare it to pulling the arms into the shoulder joints and rotating. Oops, that's my cricket phone. I forgot to turn it off. All right, so we always want to pull that humerus bone, that arm bone into the shoulder socket for stability. All right, are you getting tired? Okay, release. Rolling the shoulders one way and rolling the shoulders the other way. And then 3 ha breaths. So we're going to inhale the shoulders up and go. One more. And that's just a good way to get rid of tension. All right, so if you have a strap, grab it. If you don't, just put your arms up in a Y. And we're going to floss the shoulders, and we're going to loosen that strap so that our arms can come back and behind. And then inhale back up, and exhale back down. So do that a few more times. Inhaling up, exhaling back, and just noticing physical sensations. You want to be pain-free, so adjust this pose however you need to. We want to challenge the shoulders here, but we don't want them to be in any sort of pain. Good. And then just maybe doing a few little spinal twists, pretending you're a washing machine on the rinse cycle. Good. And slowly bringing that down. All right, so neck. Letting the head drop to one side and just slowly bringing the chin to your chest and rolling to the other side, pausing and reversing the rotation. The neck is a hot spot for many people. And noticing if there's one part of your neck that's a little hotter than another part of your neck. And if you can locate any special area of tension or tightness, you can pause there and just send an extra loving breath to that area. Give it some time to release and relax, and then continue on with the movement. And I don't drop the neck behind because that's hyperextension and not very good for the neck. So I like to just do half circles, shoulder to shoulder, not dropping the head behind. Great. And then, since some people have been spending a lot of screen time this week, we're going to give ourselves a bit of a face massage. So we're going to start off by making eye pillows with our hands. So you're going to rub your hands together, get some heat there. And then closing the eyes, noticing how much light still gets through when we close our eyes, because they're not blackout curtains. Our eyelids are curtains, but they're not blackout curtains. But here are the blackout curtains. We're going to gently place our hands over our eyes. We're not going to press into our eyeballs. That would not be a good thing. We're going to make air pillows with our cupped hands. I'm just noticing how much darker that is. And do your eyes like this darkness? So we want to sleep, ideally in totally dark rooms with no light filtering through so those eyes can truly rest. And just breathing here. And then massaging the forehead, little circular motions, our temples, a lot of tension there. And then just with these circular motions, moving our fingers down along our jawline. Jaw muscles are very powerful and work very hard. And then our sinuses fanning out from the bridge of our nose along our cheekbones, and then along our eyebrows. And just maybe freestyling it here, opening and closing the mouth, and just where do you feel like massaging your face? And I like to massage my ears, and my cats like it too. So just maybe trying pulling on the earlobes. How does that feel? And then I like to work my way up my ears, so just gently tugging on them. And just playing with your ears a little. Good. So that's our little warm up. So we've worked all the way up our body. We're going to just slowly start to take it up a notch to prepare for our peak pose. We're going to transition onto tabletop. Oh, actually, before we do that, if you have a block or a book, Can you have that out in front of you? If you don't have a block or a book, imagine you have a block or a book between your hands. So I just want to prep the arms for plank pose and dolphin pose. So I have a book. I'm in robot arms, so 90-degree angles, right? You have a book, you're squeezing it, and so we're just activating the muscles we're going to need today to do dolphin, plank, and dolphin. All right, so at first we're just going to exhale those robot arms down to their sides, shoulder blades squeeze together. Inhale, that block up. The shoulder blades will come a little apart, that's fine, but keep those arms in the sockets. Exhale, back down. We're going to do that a few more times just to invigorate the shoulder muscles, wake them up here. Just notice if this already is a little challenging. All right, and then round 2, it's going to be a little harder maybe. Bringing the arms up and back. And then back down like this. So try that a few more times and notice what your range of motion is. Make sure those elbows don't come out to the side. They're going to want to. We're going to keep those elbows pulling in, pulling in, pulling in. How far back can you comfortably get your arms? You want to stress those shoulder joints a little bit, but you don't want to make them angry. All right, so I'm about here for me. Everyone's a little bit different. And so just explore that range of motion, not judging it, but just, you know, being curious about it. And then when you're up here, take a screenshot. Because when we go into dolphin pose, this is where your head is going to be in relationship to your upper arms. So just screenshotting that, pulling the elbows in, squeezing that block. Let's hold here for a breath. Oh, and release. Wow, that was work. Okay, and just shaking up those shoulders. Oh, and I forgot the wrists. So just shaking up the hands. Doing some infinity signs, figure 8s. Reversing it, pulling the fingers back to stretch out the forearm, and pointing the fingers down and trying it again. I love this stretch. I always do it in every yoga class. And the other side. And noticing if you bend the elbow and do it, and you keep the arm straight and do it, what's the difference? Is it better with a bent elbow or a straight arm? And then pointing the fingers the other way, experimenting again. What's the difference? And then gorilla arms, we're going to stretch out the backs of the hands by gently pressing them into the floor. All right, and that's it. Now we're going on to tabletop. All right. Wrist health, arm health for tabletop, because this also for plank pose, for downward dog. It's the same for all of these poses. Spreading the fingers apart, not overly, but spread. Wrist creases always in line with the top of the mat. Not dumping into the outside of the wrist, which is what your body will want to do for many people. Instead, shifting the weight into the thumb and forefinger and thinking about getting those knuckles firmly anchored into the ground. Some people tend to lock out their elbows here. I don't know if you can see me doing that. My elbow creases are lined up with the top of the mat. Instead, we're going to internally rotate those shoulders and have those those elbow creases start to face each other a little more. Slight bend in the elbow, triceps engaged. So pull up on those triceps. And then hugging the shoulders into their sockets. Now, let's feel the difference when we don't hug the arms, not shoulders into the sockets, the arms into the sockets. Come right up out of your sockets. And then instead collapse into your sockets. And then find something in between. All right? So we don't want to be pulled out of our sockets. It's not safe. We don't want to be crunched into our sockets. It's a lot of friction for the shoulder joints. Something in between. All right. Got strong arms now. We're going to do some cows and cats. So inhale cow, exhale cat. Inhale cow, exhale cat. And if you've been with me these last few weeks, I've talked about not having the movement coming from your lower back, but coming from your upper back, your thoracic spine. So it's a smaller movement, not as dramatic. because I don't like people crunching into their lower back. It's not good for osteopenia, osteoarthritis. And then you get to freestyle here. So do you want to do hip circles, chest circles? Do you want to go into downward puppy? Do you want to go into upward dog? So the invitation here is to just close your eyes and intuitively move however your body wants to move, trusting the wisdom of your body to be your guide. What feels good? And then layering that perhaps with the 3-part breath and letting the breath also help you guide the movement. And then I'm going to wake up the internal obliques here and throw on a spinal twist. We're going to inhale one arm up, exhale, thread that arm like it was a needle through the hole and then down onto our shoulder. But we're not going to stay there. We're going to inhale back up and then exhale, thread through the needle until the shoulder drops. So inhaling up, exhaling, threading through, and just noticing how that feels. And if you don't like getting the shoulder all the way to the ground, you don't have to. And then we're going to switch to the other side and notice if it feels a little different. And then coming back to tabletop. Are your knees complaining a little bit? So mine are. And I like to make a double fold in my mat and just place my knees on the double fold because we're going to just be doing a few more little exercises. Or if you have a blanket, use your blanket. All right, so we're back in tabletop. I'm going to set my hands again. I'm going to set my shoulders. I'm going to pull up on the abdominals so that I don't collapse into my lower spine. So I don't know if you can tell now, but I'm pretty collapsed into my lower back. So I'm going to pull that. Now I'm not going to go up into a cat pose. I'm going to go into a neutral pose, just pulling up on the abdominals a little. All right, switching your weight into one knee. With the other knee, we're going to make some hip circles. And you decide whether you want the hip circles to be small or large. So we're juicing up that hip joint, reversing the rotation. So when we work the core, it's not just the abdominals. We want to work the glutes, the buttock muscles. We want to work the adductor muscles in our inner thigh that helps us squeeze our leg together. I don't know if I said reverse, but if I haven't, reverse. We want to work the abductor muscles that allow us to pull our leg out to the side. All right, good. Bend the knee, flex the foot, pull up on the belly button because I definitely feel myself collapsing when I do this pose. And just little pulses, just 1-inch pulses. And what muscles do you feel firing up now? Good. And then slowly release. And the other side. So hip circles on the other side. And you make them small or large, whatever you want. Not forgetting about the 3-part breath. Not collapsing into lower spine, engaging those abdominals. And then reversing the circles. And then flexing that knee, flexing that foot, pulling the belly button into the spine, and just doing little pulses here. And just notice what muscle is firing up. What muscle is talking to you right now? And then slowly release. And let's take a little rest in downward puppy. So knees can even become further apart. Walk the hands a little forward and then pull your hips away from your hands. So downward puppy can look like this, or you can do like half downward puppy, half child's pose, where the hips come right onto the heels. That's a lot of flexion for the knees, so careful if you want to do this. The reason I'm teaching this is when we do dolphin plank today, you might need to take a break, and downward puppy or child's pose is a great resting pose. And then when you catch your breath again, you can join back in for the dolphin plank or the dolphin. And then here you can like kind of squirm around a little bit. Also, you can bring your hands to one side and pull away from your hands. You can bring your hands to the other side and pull your head away from your hands. Great. And then coming back up to tabletop. All right, so the moment of truth. We've been working on dolphin plank last weekend also, so we're going to do that, and then we're also going to go on to dolphin pose. So if dolphin pose doesn't work for you, you can still just go back to dolphin plank and work on that. Dolphin plank has so many benefits for core health and also building strength into our shoulders. All right, so I want to work on the arms first. I'm going to give 3 variations, and you're going to choose the one that's best for you. All right, one variation is fire log arms. So we're going to bring one arm out in front and place the other arm on top, and we're going to wrap the fingers around the elbow. The other hand is just making a fist, all right? And what we're going to practice doing is bringing the hands up, noticing what's happening in the shoulders, and then bringing them back down. That's going to help us out later on for dolphin plank. So just noticing the range of motion that's available for you. All right, so that's one arm variation. Another arm variation is just our arms out like this, making fists and with the arms on the floor. And then once again, just bring those arms up and down, noticing the range of motion. All right, third variation, interlocking the fingers, elbows kind of squeeze together a little bit, and now raising and lowering the arms. So we have lots of variations. We're practicing all of them, and we're going to decide which one our shoulders most happy with. Okay, so let's now go into dolphin plank. So we're going to come onto the floor, and I invite you to experiment with all 3 variations. So remember, variation 1 is hand gripped around elbow. Another variation is interlocked fingers. A third variation is the arms, the hands shoulder width apart. This is, if you have a block, this is a good place. You can put the block on either side, and then the hands can kind of press into the block. Now, the one thing that you have to be careful of is those elbows coming out to the side. So we're just energetically going to squeeze those elbows in and then pull energetically our elbows towards our feet. And it's an energetic, it's not actually physically going to move. All right. So I will choose the variation with interlocked fingers and elbows pulling in towards each other. You can choose any variation you want. All right, so we're going to extend one leg. Okay, so let's grip first. Grip our, pushing the forearms into the floor, pulling the elbows in towards each other, arms secure in their sockets, engage the abdominals, pull the belly button up towards the spine, try extending one leg, try extending the other leg. If you need to have your knees on the floor, then please put your knees on the floor. All right, once we're in here, pull up on the quads, the thigh muscles, engage them, but drop the tailbone a little. So the quads pull up, the tailbone sinks down a little bit. What we don't want is a downward dog, or this is actually dolphin pose, and we don't want a saggy pelvis either. So we want something in between. Now the elbows, can we pull them in towards each other and pull the elbows energetically towards your feet. And just notice what that does. And then at some point, you're going to need a break, and you're going to go into downward puppy. So everyone's going to be different. Some people can hold this for 10 seconds. Some people can hold it maybe for 3 minutes. I can't. But you're going to kind of challenge yourself, a nice healthy challenge. And then when you need a break, you take a break. Now, do you want to do the second round, a different arm variation? You can just, I'd like you to play with all of them. So fire log arms, V arms, and then there's the parallel arms like this. And so I invite you to experiment with all three. Decide what feels most stable for your shoulders. And this is where you can use your forceful breath. Like you could, if you want to use the ha breath, to just give you that willpower to hold it a few more seconds. So you're working your quads here, you're working your transverse abdominis. That's a deep abdominal muscle that keeps you up nice and straight and gives you good posture. You're working all the rotator cuff muscles, lots going on here. Your body's working so hard for you right now. So we're gonna take a break and I'll come up and let's just stretch out those shoulders a little bit. So bringing one arm over and across. And then bringing the other arm over and across. All right, so the next pose, Dolphin Pose, just full out dolphin, is a hard pose for many people because of limitations in shoulder mobility and limitations in shoulder strength. So we're gonna do it in stages, coming in and out of it, and then you decide whether you wanna hold it or not. All right, once again, our option in dolphin, full out dolphin is fire log arms, V arms, or parallel arms with fists. The only problem with parallel arms with fists, there's a real tendency for the elbows to come out. I sometimes wrap straps around my students' forearms to keep those elbows honest because we want those elbows shoulder width apart. All right, so that's one thing to remember. All right, so let's come on to our knees. I am going to choose fire log arms for my first round. I invite you all to try it with fire log arms actually, and then you can always try the other variations later. And so my shoulders are over my elbows, my hips are over my knees, my feet are hip width apart. I'm just going to warm up here. I'm going to pull back into a downward puppy. So the forearms are pushing into the floor, and I'm going to come back. And maybe my ears will come between my arms, maybe they won't. And then I'm going to come in and out of it a few times. I just want to juice up those shoulder joints one more time before I go into dolphin. All right, so just notice how much is enough sensation in your shoulders and how much is too much. All right, next we're going to hold there. So the forearms are pushing into the floor. The arms are firmly in their sockets. The elbows are pulling in towards each other. We're going to come down into downward puppy dolphin, curl the toes under, and start to straighten the legs. And at first, let's just come up an inch or two and back down. Coming up an inch or two and back down. You can keep doing that. You don't have to do any more than that today, or you can go into child's pose if you need a break, or you can try to straighten those legs a little more. So let me demonstrate, and I can't talk at the same time, so I'm just going to demonstrate. So you're going to play with that. You can come in and out of it a few times to really explore your range. You do not have to straighten those legs. So I think that what you want to try to do is get those hips pulling back and up, back and up, back and up. And I would try to get those hips as far back and up as you can and then start to straighten the legs. And the legs do not have to become totally straight. And then I invite you to try the other arm movement. So I did fire log. I'm going to try the V next. I'm going to come into the downward puppy, curl my toes under, bring the hips back and up, back and up. Then I'm going to start to straighten the legs. And I might not be able to straighten my legs today. Maybe, maybe not. So you experiment. The important thing is when you're in it, energetically squeezing those elbows in towards each other, energetically pulling those elbows towards your feet. And I'll do the third variation with the arms parallel to each other, pulling back into downward puppy, curling the toes under, squeezing the elbows in towards each other, bring the knees off the ground, slowly straightening them. And just notice how those elbows want to pop out to the side if we're doing the parallel arm version. All right, I hope you're taking breaks when you need your breaks. We're going to finish off, so a few more breaths. And then once we've taken our last few breaths, we're going to go into wide-legged child's pose. So the knees are wide, one fist over the other, resting the forehead on the double fist. If this is too much flexion for your knees, it's going to look like this. And check in with your breath. How's your breath doing now? How's your body doing? And just notice if you can slow down the breath, your heart will respond by slowing down. And then coming on to one side. We're going to just work on the adductor muscles a little bit more. The knee that's on top is going to go over and across. The knee that's underneath is going to stretch out. You're never supposed to sleep this way, by the way. I love to sleep like this, but here's a little tip. If you're you need a pillow under your knee, otherwise you're like spending all night in a spinal twist and it's too much. It's better to have both knees together and even then a pillow between your knees. So we're not holding this very long, but you don't want to sleep like this. All right, the leg that's underneath, stretch out that leg, flex the foot. Inhale, using your adductor muscles, your inner thigh muscles, you raise that leg, and then you slowly exhale down. And we're going to try going a little slower than we'd like to. It's actually harder when you do it slower. So that foot is flexed, by the way, the leg that's raising, that foot is flexed. Good. And now the leg that's underneath is going to come out and bend and anchor us. And then the top leg is going to stretch out, extend. We're going to flex that foot. And then we're going to inhale that leg up, exhale down. Now we're working the abductor muscles before, and now we're working the adductor muscles. The abductors, AB is on the outside, sorry. AD is on the inside. So you might notice that you feel this here. You might notice that the glutes are kicking in a little bit. And slowly release and switch to the other side. So, adductor muscles first. flexing that leg that's underneath, inhaling it up, exhaling, release. Inhaling up, exhaling, release. Nice and slow, resisting the urge to rush. Let's do one more. Let's hold there for a breath. Let's get it right up there. Flex that foot. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Woo. And release. Okay, switch it up. That leg that's underneath now bends, comes in front. The top leg is straight. We flex that foot. Inhale up. Exhale down. Now, if you point your big toe towards the floor a little more, it makes it a little harder. So if you internally rotate that hip and then raise the leg, you might notice you're working a little harder. So once again, if you slow it down and really control the movement, it makes it a little more challenging. This is a lot easier if I just flap my wings like this. And then we'll just hold there a little bit. The toe kind of, big toe drops down towards the floor, so we're internally rotating that hip like this. And release. And then just lying slowly near that magic time. Just coming down onto the ground and just some windshield wipers side to side to release the lower back. So we're going to drop our knees to one side and we can just stop here. If you feel like you need a little more sensation, you can take the knee that's furthest away, lift it up, place that foot on the outside of the knee, and it just kind of pulls you a little deeper into the spinal twist. If that's too much sensation, then take the foot off the outside of the knee. And just taking a breath here. And looking in the opposite direction. Dropping into 3-part breath. Slowing it all down a little. And then slowly bring that foot off the knee, floating the knees back up, and then floating them down the other side. Head drops in the opposite direction as the knees. Check in with your spine. Is this enough sensation or do you need more sensation? If you need more sensation, place that foot on the back of the knee. So place the foot of the knee that's further from your body. Lift that leg. Place the outside of the ankle on the outside of the knee. If you discover that's too much sensation, you just simply take that foot off the knee. 3-part breath. And then inhale those knees up. We're going to settle into Shavasana. If your back is a little tender, you can keep those knees bent, but just let them collapse in towards each other and the feet are kind of at the outside edge of the mat. If you have a pillow, you can put your pillow underneath your knees. That feels great for the lower back. Or you can bring your feet hip width apart. Arms can be out at the side, they can be in a W, they can be in a snow angel. How do you want to settle your arms for this? And bringing the shoulder blades in a little closer underneath your back. All right, so what is your anchor going to be today? Because that little puppy mind is going to run off, and it's helpful when your mind wanders to gently invite it back to your anchor. So the most popular anchors in mindfulness is breath. However, breath doesn't work for everyone. But we'll start with that anchor. We're going to play with a few anchors. So once you've settled into your best rendition of relaxation pose, just nestling into that mat, just letting go, and we're going to let go of the breath. So no more 3-part breathing, even that is too much work. Maybe settling into a slightly more shallow breath. The breath that you use when you're going to sleep. Completely effortless, like a baby breathing in its crib. And just noticing the quality of your breath against your nostrils, against your throat, your breath filling and emptying into your lungs. Perhaps noticing that the air is slightly cooler on the inhale against your nostrils and warmer against your exhale. And I sometimes like to add a mantra to myself. And my mantra for breath is cool, calm, inhale, warm, relaxed, exhale. And usually after 3 or 5 breaths, my mind has wandered, and the name of the game is to catch that puppy mind before it wanders off too far, or kitten mind, or monkey mind, or whatever animal you want to choose. Not being angry at your mind for wandering, it's just doing what it was DNA'd to do. It was meant to scurry and wander off and check out and be curious. And so the practice is not to stop the mind from wandering. The practice is to catch it when it wanders and return it to some sort of anchor. Over and over. You might notice that the breath anchor just doesn't work for you, and that's fine. Another anchor, possible anchor, is physical sensations. So you might want to just put the flashlight on different body parts, moving either up your body or moving down your body, and using physical sensations, being really curious about those sensations as you shed your flashlight on different body parts. So that can be an anchor. And if your mind has wandered again, if your mind is restless, just observing that and smiling to yourself. It's human nature for the mind to wander. Inviting it back. And maybe your anchor is sound. Maybe it's sounds of the house, if you're outside, sounds of nature. Sound of your breathing. And also noticing the silence in between sounds. Where is your mind now? It's wandered, bringing it back one more time. We're going to have 5 more breaths here before we transition into baby pose, fetal position. And as we transition slowly into baby pose, you might want to bend your knees and just do a few windshield wipers. Very lovingly and gently, we're going to get ourselves into baby pose, making a smile with our whole body, curled up into a safe little ball in our nest. Maybe a soft smile on our lips, which will get our face to release and relax and let us know that we're feeling safe right now. And if you're feeling restless, just noticing that also. Dropping into stillness, into silence. Whether you were able to access that still point today or not, every day is different. Just knowing that it exists in us, it waits for us. Some days it's available, some days it's not. And taking a slightly deeper breath and just waking up to the day. Maybe looking forward to something, a cup of coffee, a walk, a cuddle with a pet, a cuddle with someone in the house, something that you look forward to today. Those small little moments to savor. And pushing your hands into the floor slowly and gently, getting ourselves up to a cross-legged seated or any type of seated pose. And I'd like to end the class with doing one last check-in. Bringing our hands to our hearts, making a flame with our hands, and just comparing how we feel now to the beginning of class. Has anything shifted? And not judging it at all. Because some days it's not a good shift. Maybe something in your body is aching or complaining or cranky. And just, allowing for that also. On the next inhale, floating up the flame of your hands. And when you float your arms down slowly, see yourself healthy, happy, full of peace and good intentions, and bringing that back to your heart. Bowing down to your wonderful body. Thank you, body, for serving me through this yoga class. And spreading some of that love and peace with people around you today.